Welcome to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast will contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews of newly released films, please check out our channel Reviews Without Remorse on YouTube and Vidme. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show.
And welcome to the podcast that goes from 0 to light speed and hits like a bullet. I'm the curmudgeon hermit David, and the man who shoots first and asks questions later, my man Joe.
What's up?
This is episode 44, and in this show we will discuss Vidme has pulled the plug on its site. So what does that mean? Joe will tell us. 2018 is right around the corner, and Joe and I will talk about what to expect from Reviews Without Remorse next year. And the next chapter in the new trilogy, Joe and I will dissect Star Wars: The Last Jedi. So, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I got the feeling we're in for one hell of a show today.
Yes, we are. I am anxious to see what you thought.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see what you thought, too. In case the audience is not aware, Joe and I, we never discuss the movies that we're going to review beforehand. We try to avoid it as much as possible, to the point that sometimes our texts to each other after we've seen the respective movies are extremely cryptic. Like, we don't want to give, like, any hints or allegations as to what's about to happen.
Yeah.
But, that said, let's get on it.
Yes, get on with it!
So, this is going to be a weird episode because, honestly, for both our little news topics, I don't know what the heck to use as a clip, so I'll just get right into it.
Get on with it!
At the beginning of each episode, I always say check out our videos on YouTube and Vidme. Vidme has just pulled the plug and basically surrendered and given up and decided they can't compete with YouTube. So I figured until we get that intro corrected, better let you know that don't even bother going to Vidme. Not as if I had gotten around to putting videos there anyway, in the spirit of full disclosure, but yeah, pretty much before we even got rolling. And I have to tell you, I'm a little disappointed because Vidme was kind of the budding alternative to YouTube, which for all intents and purposes has got a pretty good monopoly on anything related to video and on the internet anyway. And frankly, there's been so much. If you pay attention to anybody's channel, everybody's struggling on YouTube. And I was kind of rooting for Vidme to at least be a viable competitor. And they can't do it. Vidme pulled the plug. Vimeo, I believe, pulled the plug not long ago.
It's just YouTube now, and YouTube is not really holding it up very well, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of bizarre. I mean, for a platform that, it's a Google-based platform. Google is not really known to rest on its laurels. I mean, they're always moving and doing new things. It's very innovative. YouTube, has not done anything new recently, and every time I turn around, they just seem to be putting the clamps down on people trying to do, good content. And it does not take much to get shut down. Doesn't take much to get videos taken off, and it's been a frustration for a lot of people. So I'm kind of sorry to see the up and comer already sort of packing it up.
Yeah, it's not cool. But you know what? That's the internet for you.
So yeah, that's that. So anyway, don't bother going to Vidme looking for videos from Dave and I.
By the way, folks, I don't think we had actually published anything to Vidme yet anyway.
No, we hadn't.
Get on with it!
So 2018 is right around the corner.
Yes, it is.
And we, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know, we are professional podcasters. Maybe we don't make the money that the other professional podcasters make, but gosh darn it, we're going to do our best to come across and give our very best to you, the listener. In such that we have together mapped out the entire year. We know exactly what we're reviewing week after week after week after week for the entire 2018.
That is correct. We have a complete schedule mapped out for next year, subject to change, and there's one or two things that I could see, changing or whatever. But for the most part, we've got 53 individual episodes coming up, At least 12 individual film series we will touch on and discuss. And of those 53, 16 will be new releases. There are a lot of new releases coming out next year, so we will discuss all of them. And it's a pretty rich schedule. I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I am too. But there is a lot to cover. We're going to be covering things like the Captain America trilogy, the entirety of the Mission Impossible films.
Yep.
All the Avengers movies, the mutant movies. We're going to be finally reviewing Deadpool, which we've talked about but never actually reviewed. Mm-hmm. We're going to get to The Incredibles. We're going to get to, and this is a big one, folks, we're actually going to do the Indiana Jones series.
Absolutely.
And I have no idea how I feel about doing that.
That's going to be fun. Yeah, we got the Rambo series coming up. We've got the most recent X-Men First Class going forward in preparation for Dark Phoenix. We've got the Superman series, and to cap it off, because we like to top it off with a Christmas episode, finally we're going to end off with Lethal Weapon.
Yay! Oh, but you have to wait a whole year for that, folks. Sorry.
Pretty much, yeah. So be here a year from New Year's.
When I found you, I saw raw, untamed power. And beyond that, something truly special.
Rey develops her newly discovered abilities with the guidance of Luke Skywalker, who is unsettled by the strength of her powers. Meanwhile, the Resistance prepares to do battle with the First Order. Written by Rian Johnson, based on characters created by George Lucas, directed by Rian Johnson, ladies and gentlemen, Star Wars: The Last Night.
The last what?
Ladies and gentlemen, Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Episode 8. Whoever thought we'd see the day?
And whoever thought we'd see the day where we're going to have this conversation like this. Okay.
I'm getting a sense we're already kind of in sync on a lot of things.
Oh my God. I don't even know where to start. Okay, let me start with this. I feel like this movie would have been better if The Force Awakens didn't exist.
Okay. I hear what you're saying already, but go ahead.
I feel like The Force Awakens set up an expectation that this movie did not deliver on. Not that I felt like all the things had to be delivered on, but there were a lot of points that were in Force Awakens that were kind of hammered home. Who is Rey's parents? Who is this mysterious Snoke? Well, I hope you didn't go into Last Jedi looking for answers, because that shit ain't happening.
Yeah, it's funny. Not only did it not give answers, frankly, but I kind of felt like it was... You know how recently we talked about Thor Ragnarok, and we talked about how it sort of seemed to actively discard everything that came before? It was like, those last two movies, we didn't like them either. The hell with them. Forget all that stuff, and let's move forward. I got the same feeling with this one. I got a similar vibe here. It was almost like not only are we not getting any payoffs, and again, when we talked about The Force Awakens, we talked about a lot of things that were left dangling, and we didn't really know how to react to it because we said, well, hopefully in the next film we're going to get the answers. Well, not only do we not get answers, but it was almost like it was like a middle finger, frankly. I mean, the last film ends with Rey showing up on the island, and there's Luke, and the big dramatic rise in music as she hands him the lightsaber that he has not seen in 40 years, right? Well, what happens in this one? He takes it, throws it over his shoulder, screw that, and quite frankly, that sets the tone for a lot of the other things. The other ones, too, is like everything you were waiting on. It's like, oh yeah, remember that? Nothing. No, forget it. No, don't get your hopes up. Nothing interesting here.
In a weird way, you have to admire that at least the movie set your expectations at the beginning.
Sure, I guess.
I'm still not defending it.
Yeah.
It took me the entire weekend to disseminate this movie.
Yeah.
It really did. I walked out of it and I kind of was like, okay, I liked it, but I didn't like it. How the heck do I come to terms with that? And, what was it about that I didn't like about it? And I started, reading things online and reading what people were saying. Now, there's a lot of people that complained about Luke Skywalker's characterization. And I'm not one of those people. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with them going off into another direction. Because this movie trilogy is supposed to be about these new characters, and that's fine. But I get where people are coming from with the kind of blatant disregard to the heroism of the character. But to me, it wasn't as big a deal as everything else.
I'll bet you I'll change your mind before this hour is over.
You never know. Maybe. Anything is possible. I am very open. Oh, God. I feel so betrayed in a weird way.
Yeah. Listen, I feel your pain there, and I know exactly what you're talking about because, not unlike what we said last week about The Force Awakens, I said very plainly, I said, had we been doing this last year, 2 years ago, and we had to review this movie, I guarantee I would have been much more excited walking out, and, going back a month or two later, I would have been like, oh, wait a second. And I kind of feel that this is the same deal. It's, it's easy to get excited about certain things that are happening in the moment. A lot of the visuals are good. A lot of the action is good. The characters, again, are very likable. But then when you walk out and you go, wait a second, what just happened there? So, yeah, I feel like everything, once the smoke settles, and once the initial kind of ooh, Star Wars, yay, you walk out and you're like, wow, really? Really? And you said, you said right from the get-go when it starts off. First of all, I walk into this movie and I'm saying to myself, okay, please do not be a retread of Empire Strikes Back. Okay? That's all I care about. Just don't pull the same thing you did last time. Please don't be a retread of Empire Strikes Back. Opening crawl. The New Order has found the Rebels base and they're evacuating. I'm like, are you serious? Are you serious? In the name of all that's holy, are you kidding me? We're really going to start there. In the opening crawl, it's already redoing Empire. All right, fine. I'm like, all right, again, my brain, I'm already saying to myself, look, just go with it. And I'll tell you what, too. We kind of do our non-spoiler stuff towards the beginning if it's a brand new film, and I don't think we've really spoiled anything yet, but just an overall opinion, here's my thought. If you're a casual fan, you'll have a good time. You'll enjoy it, and you'll walk out saying, okay, pretty fun, I like it. If you are a little more of a hardcore fan, and if you're listening to this podcast, I'm guessing you are, you're probably going to be disappointed. It's better than The Force Awakens. Not by a lot. And this one is also, it makes a lot of the same mistakes as the first one did. And I'll even go as far as to say this. A lot of why I think or thought all the Marvel films were getting it right, I was really giving a lot of credit to Disney. And I said, they must know what stories work. And they know how to just change the window dressing on those stories enough to give you a new exciting story where the fundamentals are familiar and intact and work. If there's any truth to that, they're not putting the same effort into these Star Wars films. You would think that somebody would have mapped out at least the groundwork of a perfect trilogy. I don't see that at all. In fact, this one, like we already said, this one seems to sort of throw the last one under the bus and just sort of say, forget all that. So it's becoming very clear to me that I think they start out with one. If they had things in mind, they forgot about it by this one. And it just seems like this one. Where do we pick up here? Okay, fine. We'll end off here. Okay, that's that, I guess. And I don't see how the next film is going to be anything resembling a satisfactory ending to one of the greatest franchises of all time. Again, going back to George Lucas's a series of 9. The next one is it. That's it. It's not about trying to get it right anymore, guys. You're capping off the greatest franchise or one of the greatest franchise ever. And I just don't see how you're going to pull it off by the next one. Because again, I don't see where this one is headed. And if the progression from last one to this one says anything, I am definitely not excited for the next one. So, we'll see, and that is my preliminary thoughts. We'll get into details. But
wow, I mean, those are some hefty preliminary thoughts.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Disney is actually has actually given carte blanche to Kevin Feige, and Kevin Feige is the source that keeps the Marvel movies going the way that they do. And Kevin Feige is a fan, so it helps.
Right.
This is all Kathleen Kennedy. Kathleen Kennedy is the one who's in charge of Lucasfilm, so this is all her. She's the one that keeps firing directors. She's the one that insisted that they change Rogue One around to the way that it was. She's the one that has given Rian Johnson his own trilogy based on this movie.
Yeah, and I remember last week I was kind of optimistic about this one because I thought, based on that seems like a pretty good vote of confidence. But wow, I'm not seeing it.
And now, let's go back to my analogy from last week. My analogy last week was that J.J. Abrams walked into a room and he built something with Lego. He used all the different pieces and everything like that, built this giant mess of a tower, and walked out and tagged Rian Johnson, and it's like, okay, get to work. And Rian Johnson looked at this thing and said, the hell am I supposed to do with this? And I had to start by tearing it down. He literally did what I said last week he needed to do, that he needed to tear it down. But I didn't think he needed to go that far. He should have at least tried to maybe work within the confines of what they had going.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing stuff now about how, in interviews, that basically he was given carte blanche. He was told, do whatever you want. There's no set goal in mind.
If I had to venture a guess, I would have said, at least they probably said, look, Han Solo's going to be he's going to be a big player in the first one because we're going to kill him off. By the second one, you got Luke, and we'll probably kill him off. And they were probably banking on Princess Leia taking up the reins for the last one. We know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, they might have wanted to save. Knowing Carrie Fisher's history and bless the woman. I'm sad she's gone and everything like that.
Yeah.
But knowing the woman's history, they probably should have taken her out in this movie and saved Luke for the third one.
And it's interesting because we'll get back to that.
Oh, are you talking about I'm Mary Poppins, y'all?
What?
You look like Mary Poppins.
Is he cool?
Hell yeah, he's cool.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all!
Well, no. We'll get to I'm Mary Poppins, y'all in a little bit. It's funny because I went with my ex and I went with my son. My son had a great time, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But my ex was like, this is my favorite Star Wars movie so far. And I'm looking at her like, really?
Yeah.
Did we watch the same movie?
A lot of people have said that, and I'm kind of perplexed. And I have a feeling that this is going to be just like the last one. People are going to go back and say, oh, wait, you know what? That was not as good as I initially thought it was.
I certainly changed my tune on Force Awakens from my first reaction.
I think the same thing is going to happen here. People are going to wake up and realize.
Yeah, I fully admit that my first viewing of Force Awakens was definite member berry stuff.
Sure.
But subsequent, I was able to see through it. Now, there are some people who are saying to the people that don't like that you should maybe see it again, and maybe that might make a difference. And it's like, I mean, I'm going to. I absolutely positively will watch it again once it comes out on video and stuff like that. But I don't know, man. I think that when you like something, it's easier to kind of retrospectively tear it down as opposed to when you start off with a foundation where you don't like something, it's harder to climb back up again.
See, but the funny thing is, I don't really, even based on what I saw, I don't quite understand what this director really had a problem with, because it's not like he took it in some interesting new direction. I mean, yeah, all the things that we had expectations for are completely subverted in this one, but not in a good way.
In a terrible way.
But beyond that, I don't see what he was building in its place. It's like, okay, but you have to give me something here. Like don't just throw the other stuff away and not replace it with something new.
The basic gist to me is that first of all, to give the tiniest bit of credit, Snoke. Let's talk about Snoke for a second, okay? There was no way they were going to fill that backstory of Snoke in a way that would satisfy anybody. There was no way. But then The Force Awakens shouldn't have tried to make the identity of Snoke be a tantalizing reveal. Okay? This is the reason why people have spent the last couple of years talking about who the identity of Snoke is, because you set up in the first movie.
Yeah.
Then you got Rey's parentage. Okay? A part of me is kind of okay. Hear me out. A part of me is kind of okay that it turns out, no, she's just a girl that was sold by her drunkard parents who then just left off to go do whatever. Okay? I would be okay with that if the entirety of The Force Awakens didn't make it seem like it was a major big deal who her parents were. And you cannot watch The Force Awakens and tell me it wasn't put in there to try to hint, allegate, and make it be like some big reveal.
Exactly.
If you're gonna do that, if you're gonna make that much level of foreshadowing, you have to expect that if you pull the rug out of everybody's expectations and be like, just kidding, that they're gonna get upset.
You're absolutely right. I mean, she was such a Mary Sue in the first one. She was so just like everything she did was right on the mark, and again, she can pick up a lightsaber for the very first time and take on a schooled Jedi who's supposedly like the biggest, baddest one ever. So yeah, you're waiting for the big explanation to explain why that is, and of course you get nothing. And look, we're in spoiler territory now. Just FYI, obviously.
I think they figured that out.
Right, and not only that, but even the way they deliver that line, right? When she is talking to Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren brings up your parents, right? Your parents, right? You know who your parents are, right? Right.
Like and several times.
Yeah, and it's almost like they're specifically talking to the audience, like again, because there was nothing predicating that in the conversation they're having. Why he brings it up, I don't know. So he says like, "Oh, you want to know who your parents are? You want to know, you know, right? Yeah, they're nobody. Just nobody. Forget about it. They're a bunch of drunks. And they sold you for beer money." Okay.
When you put it that way.
and part of that I don't mind either, because again, I also, there is also a part of me that sort of says, look, this universe can be bigger than just the Skywalker family. I feel like just because somebody shows up in this picture, they say, well, it must be Luke's daughter, or it must be Luke's niece, or it must be somebody. Well, okay, but so I don't mind the idea that the galaxy is bigger than just these few people. But like you said, the whole thing was hinged on the idea that she must be somebody. Like the only explanation for the first one, why she can do all these things. I mean, basically, if you're going to take all of these expectations and just cast them aside, then I almost feel like going back and knocking another point off of The Force Awakens. There's the whole reason that we sort of let that one go by a little bit. We gave it a free pass in a lot of ways because we were expecting this to lead to something. So if you're going to go back and tell us, no, all of that was just nonsense, well then, okay, well now we're knocking off a point for the other one.
Yeah, and it is basically it makes The Force Awakens a completely redundant movie. There is no reason now. If people ask me, do I need to watch The Force Awakens before I go into The Last Jedi? The answer is no. All you need to know is, this is this person, this is this person, this is person, Han died. There you go. That's all you need to know. There is no purpose for The Force Awakens anymore. Yeah. It's done.
None of the questions they're getting answered here.
And they never. Well, don't worry. I'm sure somebody will write a comic book or a novelization series that will explain the history of Snoke and explain the history of Rey. Like, I have people actually saying to me, it's like, maybe he's lying to her. Maybe there's something more. Maybe the big reveal on her parents doesn't happen in the third movie. It's like, no. You know what? You've lost credibility. Yeah. I'm not going to wait for the third movie to find out about Rey's parentage. And if they wind up going back on that now it feels like a complete manipulation, a complete lie. Right. I don't see how you come back from that. I am angry at this movie. Because and it all stems from, for me at least, the anger stems from The Force Awakens. Because The Force Awakens made me believe what was coming, and I don't have a problem with subverting expectations. I like that. I'm okay with that. As even in a Star Wars movie, I'm quite fine to be surprised. And there were a couple of moments in here that surprised the hell out of me, but then brought up a whole bunch of other questions, and we're going to get to that. The idea that you just have now invalidated an entire episode of your series is infuriating to me.
Yeah. It's right, and it's almost like when you got around to the Attack of the Clones, and halfway into that you realize, you know what, that whole Phantom Menace doesn't do anything. Like we could eliminate that and just start from here, and that's kind of, I have a similar feeling with this one. It's like, yeah, there's really no reason now to even look back on The Force Awakens with any sort of reverence, because again, this one just sort of says everything that we alluded to in that one. Forget it. Just forget it. And again, like you said, Not even in a good way. I don't mind, like you said, I don't mind expectations being subverted if I get a pleasant surprise. Not just the idea that, oh, we led you down this road and it goes off a cliff. Just the idea that all of this is nothing. I mean, and there's a lot of them. I mean, again, Snoke is one. You know, Luke throwing the thing over his shoulder, I thought, was a perfect example of how, again, we were leading up to this great moment, and instead of like following through with it, just kind of go wah wah, like just for a quick chuckle. And I get the point that Luke is down on the whole Jedi thing, and I want to talk about that too. But the whole I mean, this he had this in his hand fighting Darth Vader, right? 40 years ago. You'd think he'd at least be sort of impressed with it and say like, "Wow, how did you find this?" or something, or was the hand with it too? Or
that's a longer story for another time.
Oh, and then that too. Yeah, a good question for another time. Well, apparently that's not going to happen either. Apparently that good question just goes unanswered because we don't feel like dealing with it.
A good question for another time.
Again, I mean, well, this. I'm supposed to enjoy this movie while all they're doing is giving the middle finger to the last movie, and again, replacing it with nothing.
Yeah, it's okay to change. If you decide, okay, if you're Rian Johnson, you're like, oh God, I don't like that. Oh God, I don't like that. It's like, what could I do to kind of make that more satisfying? You know, I'm going to kill off Snoke. I don't like the whole idea about Snoke. I'm going to kill him off. Okay, cool. But can you give us something? Even the littlest bit of something? The tiniest morsel of something before you go and kill off the character. Yeah. I like the idea that, you know, you're thinking to yourself, oh, this guy's going to be around for all three, and then all of a sudden, boop, he's dead. It's like, whoa, okay, didn't see that coming, but now we've got nothing to show for it. Who the hell were the Knights of Ren? Who the hell were the Knights of Ren? We saw them in that vision that Rey had in Force Awakens. There's Kylo Ren surrounded by all his little buddy. Who the hell are they? They're no, not even touching that one.
You know, he even details like the helmet. Like he shows up with the helmet, and Snoke says to him, "It's as simple as I mean, seriously." Snoke says, "Why don't you take that stupid thing off?" So he gets all pissed off and just smashes it, and you never see the helmet again. Like it was almost like so. Again, this director like is speaking through Snoke, saying that helmet looks stupid. Take it off.
Yeah.
So that's it. No more helmet. Okay. Like I thought that was even weird. Like. Oh, whatever.
And yet I was kind of glad for it because I wasn't a big fan of the helmet to begin with.
I
so
wasn't
like, okay,
either.
cool.
I said last week. I said I feel like you could buy a helmet just like that in a skateboard shop. I didn't find it to be very interesting. And yeah, if he doesn't need to wear it the way Darth Vader did, then it does seem a little silly. So yeah, I'm almost siding with Snoke on this one, but still, you're giving the middle finger to the last film, and it's almost like you're in a. It's almost like you're in a room when you're little and your parents are fighting and you just feel really uncomfortable. Like watching these two films, kind of like this one pointing the fingers at the other one, saying that was stupid, that was stupid, that was stupid. You just sit there feeling awkward, like, okay.
We are the spark that'll light the fire. It'll burn the First Order down.
Come on! All right. Well, let's move on to the world's slowest chase scene ever.
You know, and that's essentially the whole film is that, and I'm saying to my like 2/3 at least. And I remember watching that going like it was part of me was like, wait, what am I not getting here? Like they're following them. They can't fire at them for some reason, or they can't catch them for some reason. So they're just following along like a slow chase. Mm-hmm. And as they run out of gas, which, and again, this is the first time we've even really. It's the first time I've ever heard
fuel.
It's the first time in Star Wars history I've ever heard anybody be concerned about running out of fuel. But I guess it happens. So okay. So yeah, so as the ships run out of gas, they just blow them up. Okay. Yeah. And I didn't find it to be very exciting, but okay.
Why the hell didn't they just send the ship ahead of them using light speed and take them out from the front? Right. Not to mention the fact they already attacked the fleet. They disabled and blew up the ship, the bridge of the ship, for God's sake. Why the heck couldn't they just keep up the barrage with their starships?
I don't know.
Were they going at? This is what I'm getting from the science of this. The science of this goes something like this: the smaller fighters do have a monicum of speed, but if you put your ships at top speed, your big frigates and stuff like that at top speed, that's faster than the smaller ships. Okay, fine. And the giant Star Destroyers and everything that's chasing after them, they can, at best, match your speed, but they can't go faster than you. Again, okay. This is now the new science that I am learning in Star Wars. Thank you very much, Rian Johnson, for that. But still, it doesn't explain why they just didn't get ahead of them and just blow them out of the sky. Send one Star Destroyer ahead of them to interdict them, and boom, movie over.
Well, yeah, not only that, but then... Right, they're chasing each other at light speed.
Sublight speed.
Okay, yet a small ship can take off, can leave and have like a whole side adventure in a whole other part of the galaxy. And why? Because we call Maz Kanata, because we want her in this, and we say, we're in this jam, how do we get out of this situation? Which kind of reminded me of Star Trek Into Darkness when they had to call Leonard Nimoy one last time to say, how do we get out of this mess? Okay. So she says, oh, you have to go to way over there to get a lockpick or whatever, a safecracker, to bring him back, and then go on to the Star Destroyer, and then... So Maz Kanata knows everything, and that's the big plan. So these guys... Mm-hmm. So Finn and the new girlfriend jump into a ship. They can fly all the way over to whatever, do a whole side story, get into trouble and have antics and shenanigans, and then fly back onto the same... ship that's having this light speed chase as if they haven't really gone anywhere. Like you said, the math doesn't work. Like it's almost like it's like if OJ got into like a little sidecar, got out of the Bronco, took off and went and fetched something he needed and came back to the Bronco in the slow speed chase and got back inside and solved the problem. It's like,
ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. Star Wars compared to the OJ taste.
911, what are you reporting?
This is AC. I have OJ in the car.
Okay, where are you?
Please, I'm coming up the 5 freeway.
Okay.
Right now, we are okay, but you gotta tell the police to just back off.
Okay.
So that's all we ask. He got a gun to his head.
Okay, and what's your name?
My name is AC. You know who I am, goddammit.
I mean, that was literally what was popping through my head when they're having this like slow speed chase where, like, it really did. It popped. I was thinking about it, like this is like the OJ chase, the low speed chase where they're following him through L.A.
This low speed chase brings about the I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
So I am bringing this up. I don't know how Joe feels about this. During the initial attack on the Rebel fleet, Mr. Kylo Ren in his hybrid Millennium Falcon meets Darth Vader's, TIE fighter. And I call it that because it kind of looks like Darth Vader's TIE fighter, but if you look at the engines in the back, they're kind of like the Millennium Falcon's back engines, but red. He gets a shot on the bridge, and he hesitates. He doesn't do it, but of course his wingmen are like, well, screw you, Ren, we're firing. Boom. Window blows open. Say goodbye to frickin' Admiral Akbar and all the bridge, and out of the window goes Carrie Fisher, a.k.a. Princess Leia. And when it happened, the entire audience went silent, as they should, because everybody knows that Carrie's gone, and you're thinking to yourself, well, you know what? If there's a way for the character to go out, I guess there could be worse ways. This sucks, and it's going to be hard, and I'm going to miss her. Wait, what's going on? What? Is she moving? What? I was watching that, and the audience is clapping, and I'm like, where is the setup for this? Where is the tiniest setup for this? Do not tell me, oh, she sensed Luke in Empire Strikes Back, and oh, she sensed Han when he died in Force Awakens. That's not a setup to be able to put a freaking air bubble around you and fly through space like Mary Poppins, y'all, and get herself back inside the ship. If they had given any indication or given any slight thing, like people are telling me in retrospect, well, Rian Johnson in interviews said that they had a part where they talked about that Leia had started Jedi training, but she stopped to focus on government. It's like, great, you know what? That would have been a great line to keep in the damn movie.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I at that point I felt like, all right, I'll give it a pass.
What?
It didn't. I mean, is it super logical? No. Again, you don't see people flying through space in Star Wars. But again, you know what? Fine. Like I said, I just.
Dude, you sound like a defeated person. You sound like you're a beaten housewife.
Of all the
or a
things that are
beaten
going on in this
husband.
movie, I felt like, is that what I'm gonna? Is that the hill I'm gonna die on? No, it's okay if she wants to float. I mean, she floated back, and I mean, I didn't quite understand
That's
how
not
she
the-
gets back
whoa, whoa, whoa.
in when they opened the door, like to let her back in. Why didn't more people get sucked out? I wasn't sure about that.
I'm assuming that she had gone to the point where she had passed like the safety shields, the magnetic shields and stuff like that. That's my only stuff. But at that point, it didn't even matter.
Yeah.
And Joe, this isn't the hill to die on. This is just another battle up the hill.
Right.
You know, there are plenty of battles to die on in this movie.
Yeah.
This is just this is like another brick in the wall.
Like you said, if we had a little something leading up to it to explain it, and again, we got the whole last movie, there could have been something to say, once Luke, I realized I had the Force too, and once I realized, Luke and I, he taught me things, and not a whole bunch, but, things that were useful.
Jesus, even a scene of her just like casually grabbing something using the Force would have been fine. I would have been fine with it then. Just a little something.
Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah. Even that little shot at the end where the kid grabs the stupid broom, I thought.
Yeah, like that. Right there. Yeah. Right there. That one little scene where he just grabs the broom using the Force. One shot of Leia doing that, and I would have been like, okay, I'm fine. It's not. It's still corny, but I would have been fine with that.
Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars. Give me the Star Wars. Don't let them end.
I tell you what, here's another gripe I have with it, and I kind of feel like I wish I threw out some positives in the beginning, but honestly, I was struggling thinking of stuff, but I don't like the humor in this. I don't like all the gags and all the yucks in these movies, and frankly, it's not even that it's just an overemphasis on humor, but I kind of feel like it's a very 21st century millennial type of wisecracking that sort of pulls me out of this. I mean, I said in the last review, I said they lost that. The word they kept going back to was regal. They had a very regal way of speaking. And look, I know I don't want to go back to the prequels where everyone talks like this because like if you ask a child how do grown-ups talk like this because grown-ups are boring. I'm not saying I want to go back to that, but that still feels a little more like Star Wars than some of the kind of goofy wisecracky stuff. Like even the very beginning, Poe Dameron goes and starts taking on the Dreadnought, which already I don't understand. Like it's like, oh, he's too close, oh, he's too this, he's too that. Well, if one little ship can fly around and just start blowing up all your cannons, then two ships would probably take out the whole. I mean, it didn't make any sense already. But he flies right up and he stops, and he does that thing. I want to speak to General so and so, and of course the guy who's the guy who's the cartoon of the Nazis. I am going to crush you and kill you, and he's going, hello, what? Oh, I'll hold or something or other, and I'm saying to myself, no. You have to live in the 21st century to be put on hold on the telephone to get that joke. So you've already blown it. Like you've taken me out of Star Wars already. Like that's what drives me crazy. Is like
I didn't mind that. I didn't mind that as much. But then again, I didn't mind it as much when he did the whole "Who talks first? You talk first. I talk first."
Well, that bugged me in the last. Yeah, I didn't like that either.
And that didn't bother me as much. It was the cartoonish way that Hux's face was like contorting as it was happening. That was like, oh god, that's just a little too much.
And the guy's, I think he's messing with you, sir. I'm like, really? Ugh. It's over. I mean, and like the whole thing. It was like everything was punctuated with weird jokes. Like, and when Rey is on Luke's planet, by the way, and I want to talk more about that, by the way.
We're getting there.
And she's having the forced conversations with Kylo Ren, which I didn't mind again because we've seen them. We've seen Darth Vader communicate with Luke over distances or whatever. Mm-hmm. I didn't mind that per se, but then there was this odd wisecrack, like she's talking to him, and apparently they can see each other, not just hear each other. And as they're talking, she goes, "Could you put a shirt on, please? Would you please put a shirt?" And I started to get really annoyed. I'm like, no. If they're trying to build sexual tension as if these two are going to end up together at the end, and they're going to, no, I'm not on board with that. Don't even go down that road. But But again, again, could you put a shirt on, please? Why do that? Why do that at all? That made no sense. It was so stupid.
I think they were trying. I think that was just to try to establish the level that this type of communication can do, where you can actually kind of see the person, so that when the end happens, and we're going to talk about that as well, it kind of be like, oh, okay, so Jedi can do this. I think that's really what it was for.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, there was, I don't know. I
am not defending it. This is not me defending it.
And then, then they do the whole thing where Kylo Ren, like when he snaps out of it, his hands are wet because there was water there. And I'm like, oh, really? Are we gonna try to suggest that he actually is physically going there and coming back or whatever? The only reason or the only justification I have for that is, I guess, it was almost like they had to, and they also did this with Yoda, by the way. Like when Yoda shows up, and you notice like they don't do the traditional Force ghost where they have like the blue glow around them.
Mm-hmm.
I think the whole reason why they were doing that was because when Luke does it at the end, you wanted to explain why he's not looking like a Force ghost, like he's full blown looking like a full blown person standing there.
Right.
But again, I don't know, whatever. But again, they even give Yoda a joke, which again, I don't mind Yoda being funny because he was funny in the first one, and I have no problem with him being funny, especially older Yoda, who's, see, like, I like the idea, kind of like in Star Trek, where young Spock is really super uptight, but older Spock is a little more casual with the timeline and messing with things and stuff, because he's kind of like lived long enough to know it's not a big deal, life goes on, that kind of thing. I didn't mind Yoda being jokey. But the thing when he says about like when Luke goes, oh my God, the sacred texts, you blew them up. Yoda goes, have you read them? And Luke's like, well, no. And Yoda goes,
Page turner, they are not.
Yeah, page turners, they are not. And I'm like, again, like page turner is a thing we hear to. I don't know. It just rubs me so wrong when they do that. I can't stand that.
There was a lot of anachronistic style speech. You know, Lucas wasn't the greatest at dialogue, but at least he came up with dialogue that didn't sound like it was coming from
21st
our
century
galaxy.
dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is supposed to be a galaxy far, far away. This is not even supposed to be like Earth hundreds of years later. If it was, I could even throw that a bone and say, okay, fine. You know, like, okay, then, like even in Star Trek, they make jokes that are kind of like a little too, you know, they reference way too much to today's time, which I feel like doesn't make a lot of sense. But again, I'll at least cut it some slack, because at least that's supposed to be in our universe, just in the future. But Star Wars is not supposed to be in our universe. It's supposed to be something completely different. So the dialogue should be very universal and not really rely on, you know, modern day experiences
or modern day
colloquialisms or whatever. Yeah.
Hold, messing with you. That's those are colloquialisms that do not belong in Star Wars.
Let the past die. Kill it. If you have to. That's the only way to become what you were meant to be.
Lightspeed as a suicide bomber.
You know, it was funny. When I saw it, I thought it was really cool. Mm-hmm. And I still think it's pretty cool. But then again, the more I thought about that one, I was like, all right. I'm relying on the idea that I don't understand the science to give it a pass. Because I'm saying to myself, at first I thought, yeah, that makes perfect sense. But then I was like, well, wait a second. Why would a smaller ship cut through a larger ship instead of just sort of hitting the larger ship and just exploding on contact? And but then I was like, well, okay, I guess if it's able to go from 0 to light speed that fast, which apparently in this universe you can,
right?
That's as good as getting a running start. So I guess that would work. So okay, I mean, I thought it was very cool. I thought it was a good way. That was probably the only surprise in the whole film. Really, it was probably the only time I went, oh, I didn't expect that. That's an idea. Yeah. So
I don't know how well the science works out either. I agree with you, but I will say that I'm one of the people that'll defend that scene a little bit. You know, people are like, well, then why didn't they just do the same thing with the Death Star? It's like, because it's, you know, fly a small ship into the Death Star. It's like, small Death Star, small ship, big Death Star. One ship going into the Death Star would not do that. This was a ship that was only maybe a little bit smaller than the Star Destroyer that was taking it, and taking out part of its wing is absolutely something that I believe could happen.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I thought it worked. I do have a thought about that, by the way, but
okay.
I wasn't really crazy about the Laura Dern character.
No.
Princess Leia goes out. Now suddenly we get this secondary person who I guess is
Vice Admiral Holdo.
Yeah, who apparently Poe and everybody else has never seen before. Already she's in command. Okay, but we don't. It's like she's like the vice president. Yet we're just meeting her for the first time. Okay, fine, whatever. And of course, like Poe says, so what's the plan? Now the frustrating thing again. Now she's you're one of these flyboys and you I don't like your kind and whatever. Really, this is what we're gonna do? All right. So then you have that whole sort of story with Poe and the mutiny and all this other stuff, and it was okay. And then of course Leia shows up, and what does she do? She takes out Poe.
Right.
And she's like, "Dummy, you have no idea what you're doing." And of course,
but in Poe's defense, the woman didn't tell him what the plan was either.
Well, exactly. Right. So now we have a whole mutiny going on for no reason except for this lady decided not to tell him. Why? Did it need to be a secret? Was there some reason why Poe can't know that somebody is doing something? Why does she now step in and not say anything? So we got people now doing dumb things because of just miscommunication for no reason.
It's an episode of Three's Company again.
Come and knock on our door. Come and knock on our door. Been waiting for you.
Yeah, it's right. So now we got people doing, and you would think by the time the mutiny starts, she might say, "Poe, I have a plan. I have a plan." But no, it doesn't happen that way.
Nope, just fights back and wakes up Leia, goes running to Leia. Leia, Poe isn't playing nice with me. Can you blast him?
Yeah, exactly.
Now now we have to discuss it. We have to talk about it. You're saying you're going to convince me. We're already pretty far in, and that's okay. I don't care if we go over our normal allotted time. Luke Skywalker, hit me.
The treatment of Luke Skywalker in this film was awful. Absolutely awful. First of all, just like Yoda, okay? Luke screws up, so he banishes himself, exiles himself to what's essentially Dagobah, okay? He goes to this island to just live out the last of his days and just croak. And why is this? Because he started a Jedi Academy and it went sour, and because of this one failure, he not only does he just hide away and escape and refuse anybody's help. First of all, if Luke had never intended to ever come back and never wanted to be found, why is there a map? Going back to the expectations of the last film, why now was there a map? Why are there parts of this map? Why did R2-D2 suddenly have the last piece of the map? As if it's time to go get Luke. Apparently no. Apparently that is all nonsense. Luke never wanted to be found. So why there is a map in existence, I have no idea. Okay, I'll just fast forward to the point. You mean to tell me that Luke Skywalker, the man who risked his life to stand up against Darth Vader and the Emperor for the sole reason that he could feel that there was still a little good left in Darth Vader, okay? He was willing to bet his life on it, okay, and risk it all because of the little bit of good in Darth Vader. This same person now sees a little bad in Kylo Ren and decides to murder him in his sleep. This kid is his nephew, his only sister's and his best friend's only son. Luke is picking up a little dark side in him, decides to cut him down in his sleep. Really? And do not try to tell me that, well, Luke said he wasn't really going to do it. No. Dave, if you're sleeping in the next room and I wake up and I grab a shotgun and I load that shotgun and I tiptoe into your bedroom and you wake up to me pointing a loaded shotgun in your face and you knock it out of the way, are you really going to take my word and go, Dave, I wasn't really going to shoot you in the face, I swear. I just had this momentary lapse. No. Luke is standing there over this kid with a lit lightsaber. No, absolutely, positively not. And then even after all that, he won't get up off his ass to go and pitch in and help. And if he's so, even again, the idea that he's the one saying that Kylo Ren is evil and he's beyond saving or whatever, that to me even sounded just not like Luke, because Luke was the one, like Ben Kenobi was the guy saying he's more machine than man now, and like it's almost like now he's taking on that role. I guess I get it to an extent, but it just didn't sound like him at all. So again, but even if he is convinced he's so dirty and he's so rotten, then just go there and help out. Why not? He really gave no reason why he couldn't just go there and help. Like, even if he doesn't believe he can do much good, just grab an axe and run into the battle, dude. So I didn't like any of it. And then even at the end, the end was the redemption part, and I was kind of like, okay, but even then I kind of didn't understand it, because he shows up at the end. He has the fight with Kylo Ren, only to find out that he was never there in the first place. All right, now that's interesting. That subverted an expectation or two. Yet when it's all done, he rolls over and dies anyway. So you might as well have just gone there and let Luke die on the battlefield instead of doing this whole kind of weird thing. So yeah, I thought Luke came off terrible in this film. And how about this? I liked, there was something, I can't remember what it was, but something happened that changed his mind long enough to tell Rey, wake up tomorrow, I'm going to give you 3 lessons. And all but it wasn't really like he was giving lessons. He was just going to tell her how stupid the whole idea is, basically, in 3 parts.
Right.
But at least I was thinking, okay, we're on to something here. And then when he starts the conversation with the whole Jedi thing is based on failure, I kind of sat up in my seat. I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be interesting. I want to hear what he's going to say next. But he says like how, the Jedi basically created Darth Vader, who basically, started the Empire and the dark side took over, to which she quickly shut him down and said, yeah, but they also created you to take down Darth Vader, and that's exactly what you did. And even as she's saying that, I'm also thinking to myself, wait a second, but for 1,000 generations before that, you never had a Darth Vader. It's only one kerfluffle in a pretty good run, guys. So yeah. I don't know. So anyway, I thought Luke Skywalker came off terrible, and I said in the last one, I said all of our people, Han and Leia. Oh, congratulations! Remember how you left them together and happy? They're finally together in the end. Yeah, they split up. They created Satan himself. So they didn't come off so good. Han ran off and dumped her to do what he usually does. Luke ran off because he chickened out now, and so nothing about this redeemed Luke, I thought. I mean, the ending it was kind of a redemption, and it was a good scene by them. That shot of Luke standing there basically looking down the whole Empire. Mm-hmm. That was a good shot. I mean, it was a good visual. It was a good moment. I'm not going to take that away. But again, when you walk away later, it's kind of like, but he wasn't really there, and it wasn't really this, and it wasn't really that, and
he inspired the last bit of hope that the Resistance needed to really get going, and for Rey to finally discover her superpower. I don't know, Joe. I really don't know.
But do you feel now? Did I change your mind about Luke Skywalker?
No, you didn't change my mind, because I understand exactly why people feel the way that they do. But this entire movie set up the expectation as to where this character was going to go from the beginning. Do I like that Luke changed as drastically as he did? No, I don't. In a realistic world, do I think that a Luke Skywalker could become this type of person? 100%. The problem is that these movies were never meant to portray a realistic world. And this one may be simply the most grounded Star Wars out of all of them in respect to dealing with a realistic world. We gave The Force Awakens a lot of crap for fan pandering and stuff like that, but this movie decided, no, I'm going to take it. This is my Christopher Nolan Batman Begins gritty reboot of the Star Wars series. And under other circumstances, I probably wouldn't have minded. But in this case, I didn't really feel anything. I felt a little sad during the closing credits because I knew this was the last time I was going to see Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia. But other than that, it was like, You know, it was a whole lot of nothing. I don't have a problem with the idea of doing things differently if you do it in a compelling way. And in some respects, they did kind of do it compelling. Did they subvert the character that we've known and loved? 100%. But I don't feel as strongly about that as a lot of people do, simply because they kind of, from the beginning, from the moment Poe said, "Is General Hux there?" they set the tone for this movie. And I knew that no matter what I thought of Star Wars before, this movie is now forever going to change it, and I'm either going to accept that, sit back and enjoy the ride, or I'm just going to be a curmudgeon about it through the entire thing. I chose to just enjoy the ride until I got to the end, and then I could put all the pieces together.
Kylo failed you. I won't.
Okay, how about the one thing that everybody seems to agree was terrible was the whole little side plot where they go to the casino planet.
I'm unqualified to discuss that portion of the movie because I actually fell asleep during it.
Well, there's probably a very good reason you fell asleep through it. You know, it irked a lot of people because it was just so boring and pointless, and I completely agree with that. It did not seem to jive with the rest of the film. And frankly, I just felt like we were back in prequel territory again. When you show up at a planet that is very obviously a casino that we're very familiar with, you might as well be going back to Dexter Jettster's 50s Cafe or the other nightclub that they go to, you know, where they're watching football on TV, except they're all riding the Segways. The Segway robots are playing football or whatever. Like that to me is, again, like you're completely just showing us things that this is not Star Wars. This is not Star Wars at all, and I thought that whole thing was silly. And just a quick little 30-second rant on all the moral messaging in this too, by the way. Just stop slapping me in the face with all this crap. They did a whole side plot, like they're at the casino planet, and Finn's like, "Wow, this is great. This is like the coolest thing ever." And the girl goes, "Look closer." And they show scenes of like slaves getting hit to serve people, and the animals that for the racetracks are being abused. And all right, I get it, fine, whatever. Just enough with that nonsense. Like you really. Oh, and then by the way, they run into the other guy who, Benicio del Toro's character, who's not the safecracker that they meant to find, so they just found another one. So he, of course, he's shifty and whatever. And then at some point, he says something like, well, how do you think that these people can afford to live this way? Because they all sell weapons to the New Order, right?
The First Order and the Resistance.
Right. I mean, as soon as he said, as soon as somebody said, because they sell resistance to the New Order, ooh, I remember thinking, well, yeah, but they probably sell it to the good guys too. And of course, then 5 minutes later, they show the X-wing fighter goes, and that's not all. And now it's like, oh my goodness, you mean we buy weapons from people too? How terrible of us. And I'm like, really, guys? Really? Like, again, stop slapping me in the face with these annoying social messages. Like, that, so what? Like, is the Resistance so, like, what do you think? Somebody's out there with like a chisel and a hammer building X-wings from scratch? Because God forbid we buy them from somebody else? Like, what's the point of that? That was just so irritating. I'm like, stop with the mess. Like, can you suck the fun out of Star Wars anymore? It's Star Wars, for God's sakes. I mean, just ugh.
It's funny you should mention that because I find it hysterical. That's like, we'll never know the origin of Snoke, but we know where the X-wings and the TIE fighters come from.
Right, seriously.
This is not going to go the way you think.
So what'd you score it? Keep in mind, you gave Force Awakens a 3 last week.
Yeah. I'll say this. Look, I found it to be mildly more enjoyable than The Force Awakens. I probably will change my mind again. The way I said I saw The Force Awakens originally, liked it at first. It didn't sit well, and I feel like this one it's already not sitting well. And look. This is going to be a divisive film because a lot of people are going to really like it. The people I went with all loved it, had a great time watching it, and everyone was laughing at the parts that I'm kind of cringing at. It's got good things for a lot of people. I found it to be mildly more enjoyable, and seemed to be trying to do something, I think, and where the last one just seemed to be trying anything and everything to see what fits. At least this wasn't a carbon copy of Empire Strikes Back.
And at least they tried something different.
They seem to venture into different things and whatever. I'm going to give it a 6. I was going to give it a 7, but I've talked myself out of it. I'm going to give it a 6. Like I said, mildly better than the last one. Still, it doesn't deliver on anything. I mean, you won't regret watching it. The 2 hours will go by quickly. People said it runs a little too long. If you keep it moving, keep it interesting, I never mind a long running time. So I wasn't sitting there watching my watch by any stretch. But again, it's just when it's all done, it's like I don't get what the point of any of it was. I don't understand why you're again, all these expectations you had from the first one, you throw it in the garbage heap and you don't replace it with anything. And I don't like what happened with Luke's character. I don't like what happens. I mean, even Phasma. Like, everyone was waiting. Like, again, Phasma has now become the Boba Fett of this series. Where,
the literal Boba Fett.
It's going to sell a lot of dolls because it's cool looking, but it didn't do anything and goes out like a punk.
Yep.
And again, when Finn is standing off against Phasma at the end, when I'm saying to myself, why is this the big rivalry? Like, he was her superior when he worked there. That's it. That's all. I don't remember her ever being like specifically mean to him or killing somebody that he loved or anything. Like, what's the big rivalry here? I kind of feel like that's something they're just trying to force together, and it's not working. And then of course she goes out, so it's like, oh, bye for that one. That's not going to be anything big either. Anyway, and incidentally, I don't see where this film can go, because again, overnight, I still, like, again, the first one, I didn't understand how the New Order, First Order, I keep messing this up, became the Empire overnight, just because all of a sudden they're the Empire. And all of a sudden, the Rebellion, which I thought was going to rule the galaxy after the Empire went down, now they are already the Resistance. And so I didn't get that from the first one, but now I get it even less, because again, now the Empire was big enough to basically blow up where the Resistance was. They picked off everyone to the point where now, at the end, the Resistance, all that's left, the entire Rebellion can fit on the Millennium Falcon now. There's nobody left. So,
pretty much.
Again, how they're going to bounce back from this, I don't get. And have a good ending in the next one? I don't know. So, yeah, look, 6 is the best I could do. That's all I got. Dave, talk me out
well,
of it.
J.J. Abrams is definitely going to be working his ass off for the next movie, because I also gave it a 6. And I really feel like I'm being a bit generous. I was originally going to give it a 5.
Yeah.
But it had occurred to me that, you know what, I was entertained, but it's such an inconsistent movie. It's such a schizophrenic movie. It wants to be one thing, but then it doesn't want to be something. It wants to be respectful, but then it's not. It's like I didn't really know exactly where it was going. I don't get everybody's I get the enjoyment of it. I don't get the love for it.
Yeah.
All right, I can absolutely positively understand the enjoyment, because I did have moments where I was enjoying myself, where I did, feel like, oh, this is, kind of a fun adventure. Maybe it's not necessarily Star Wars, but it's kind of a fun adventure. But yeah, just too much of it just kind of, I don't want to say shat on the mythos, but certainly defiled it.
Yeah. I'll accept that.
Who asked you?
Who asked me? I've already kind of tap danced all over it already. Luke's attempt to murder Kylo Ren in his sleep, I think is just so baffling. Again, like I said, if it wasn't like the perfect opposite of what I think this character is, like I said, this is a character who risked everything for a glimmer of good in Darth Vader, has now done a complete 180 and is ready to murder somebody in cold blood because he's got a little bit of the dark side in him. Mm-hmm. I don't see how that works. And again, there's nothing, kind of like how we talked about Batman in Batman v Superman. If you gave me something to see why we got this cold, bitter now Batman who's willing to kill people, I could have played along. Same thing here. If you showed me something to show why Luke would be so embittered, I mean, again, this guy Lucas had nothing but happy endings. He rescued Darth Vader and brought him back from the dark side. Darth friggin' Vader. So why he thinks he can't save Kylo Ren, his own flesh and blood, from turning to the dark side, why he's got his only choice is to murder him in his sleep, just baffles me. And why nobody writing this understands why that's backwards, that baffles me.
Maybe he was just tired. Maybe he just couldn't deal with it anymore. He just wanted to tell people to get off his lawn.
Get off my lawn.
But that's a good one. I will grant you that one. I have a top 3. I have a top 3. Basically, these are the ones that we hadn't really gotten to as of yet, so I just want to make sure that they're mentioned. And then the last one is going to be my actual Who Asked You. Number 3. Some have said that they should just throw out The Force Awakens and start from scratch, and it seems Rian Johnson's got your backs, folks. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Number 2. Rey was raised in a desert planet. They even made a point of having her say, I didn't know there was this much green in the galaxy in Force Awakens. How did she know how to swim?
Oh, okay. I forgot about that part, but yeah. Okay.
But my real Who Asked You? With the plethora of things to choose from, this is the one that will annoy me to no end, and that's this. How the hell did Benicio del Toro's character know that the rebellion was pulling a fast one and escaping from the ship to Crete? How did he know that? Nobody knew it. They didn't even tell Poe frickin' Dameron. Oh, but this guy who we're introduced to is sitting in a damn jail cell and who basically just light speeded in directly onto a Star Destroyer. He knew.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
Oh, God. That was just...
Yeah.
For your consideration, Joe?
For my consideration, the part with the ship going through light speed through the Star Destroyer... That is I thought that was probably the highlight of the film, and I thought that was a pretty cool idea. Unfortunately, though, I have a but.
Okay.
Frankly, that was a really big missed opportunity because when they're editing this film, they know that Carrie Fisher has passed on.
Right.
Why not make her the one who sacrifices herself taking out the other ship? That could have been her sayonara. Now, I don't know how they're going to just dismiss her from the next one. They'll probably just open up by saying Princess Leia has passed on or something. I'm guessing. I don't know. But boy, that would have been a nice heroic moment for her to leave on as opposed to this other character who we've just met. So I kind of felt like that was a little bit of a missed opportunity there. But having said that, it was a pretty cool scene. And I'll be honest with you, by the way, I struggled. You know, it was funny. You and I, we don't talk about the films before we discuss them on air. But when you said... You know, I asked you. You said, "Are we on time? Are we good?" Yes, I'm just doing my notes. And you said, "I'm struggling with my Who Asked You?" I was like, "Wow, that's funny." You said, I thought you were going to come in praising the film when you said that, because honestly, my Who Asked You, I had no problem with the one that I chose. My consideration, I was struggling. I was really struggling to find a particular highlight of this film to praise. I don't find this one to be a very good one. I thought it was probably the best part of the film that I could think of, but right. I didn't really find that to be like a wow moment.
I actually did purposely send you that text to subvert your expectations and make you feel like I couldn't find anything wrong with it, when the truth was there were so many things I didn't know what to settle on.
Yeah. I was a little baffled. It's because honestly, this is an interesting film because I'm hearing some people rip on it, some people have had a pretty 50-50 feeling with it, and some people have praised this. Like some people have said this is the best film since Empire, and I'm like, you are out of your minds. And in fact, I mean, honestly, when we were talking about The Force Awakens last week, it was already starting to. They were, the high scores were already starting to show up, and I was like, all right, maybe they got it right. Maybe they're gonna. This is the one we've been waiting for. And then I saw it, I was like, wow, really? So yeah, a lot of people are loving it. And I don't know what they're seeing. I didn't see it that way at all.
No, same here, man. I didn't see it that way at all either. But for what it's worth, I agree exactly with you on your consideration. That's what I put down. I put down light speed as a weapon is pretty damn imaginative. That's what I put down.
Yeah, I mean, it's imaginative, but then people are going to say, well, how come we never saw it before? Well, look, let's just take the good where we can.
I only know one truth. Jedi to end.
And speaking of taking the good, next week Next week, we are reviewing A Christmas Story.
Oh, right. I couldn't remember what we were doing next week, but yeah.
No, I figured this was a nice way to top the year. We're gonna top up. It's Christmas week, so it'll be released Christmas week, and we will be reviewing the classic '80s movie, A Christmas Story.
Yep.
And I'm really looking forward to discussing that with you. We must have quoted that movie so many times. It's going to be absolutely interesting to actually talk to you about it as a film.
Oh, fudge.
I just watched it the other night too. Stop making me laugh.
Awesome. All right. Well, that'll be a nice one to end the year on. Hey, this has been a hell of a year. You know, Dave and I, we started in February. We started a little after the new year, but this has been some year. We got a lot of podcasts done.
Yes, indeed, and we've got a lot more ahead of us.
Absolutely. The next year should be. I'm looking forward to it. I look at that schedule and I honestly say to myself that I like where that's going. We got a nice variety, a nice range of things, and we're gonna hit all the big heavy hitters this year. So it's gonna be good.
I'm actually more worried about 2019, honestly.
Well, we'll cross that. Yeah, that's true. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
All right. But on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Joe, always awesome talking with you about this stuff. I'm so glad we were on the same page.
Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode. And be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube and Vidme for spoiler-free reviews of new releases, as well as in-depth discussions of current and classic cinema. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider becoming a patron. You can find our page at patreon.com. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are used for commentary and critique, and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.